So the question for me is, why did Walt Disney even choose to make Peter Pan in the first place?
Oh, back in 1953 or whatever it was?
53 is when it came out, so he must have made the decision in the early 50s, or maybe even long before, maybe even back in the, 40s.
Yeah, those films tended to cook in his head for a long time before
A long time. Mm-hmm. And I, even though I've read a couple of books about Walt, I cannot remember how he made the decision to make an animated feature about Peter Pan. I can only guess that there must have been some aura of Peter Pan, the beloved children's classic, that made him want to do it. Because I've just said that, but I don't know. Was it ever a beloved children's classic as far as you knew? Did you ever see the J.M. Barrie novel on the shelves of any of your school libraries, or did anyone ever say, "Here, read Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie"? Did you ever experience Peter Pan as the novelization, or was it only, like little golden books and the Walt Disney movie and the musical?
Yeah, it was the movie. It was the movie, and probably the little golden books that I had, were based on the movie. They were obviously not based on the J.M. Barrie book. No, I don't think I stumbled upon the book by itself. The door to the book was the film.
That's right. The book itself was never actually laid before me, and I can tell you, I looked at the book and the play before I watched this movie, or in conjunction with this little thing, and I want to tell you, that source material is weird. It's weird. J.M. Barrie was weird. He was weird. He was a known weirdo. And that book and that story are weird. When Wendy is first born, the Darlings debate or discuss whether or not to keep her.
Yeah.
Because
something about
Mr.
that.
Darling...
Okay, go on.
Yeah, Mr. Darling is such a utilitarian, he's not sure they can afford her, and he's sitting there like totting up the numbers, and I don't know, somehow they keep her anyway, despite the fact that she's really unaffordable. What I do remember,
now this is, casting my memory back years, what I do remember is that that world of the Darlings was almost just as weird as Neverland, because they had the dog was the nanny. And there were all kinds of weird things in that book, about where, let's see, babies, what was it with babies and birds? Little birds fell out of the nest. What was that? Yeah, I can't remember that either. But I do remember also that weird thing about the mother had a little kiss on the side of her mouth that she never let.
Yeah, she never let anyone get. She had a kiss in the corner of her mouth that no one could ever get.
Yeah.
Peter Pan got it in the end, but no one could ever get it.
Yeah. It was a strange world that he set up. Well, I'm just thinking back to your original question. Why would he pick that one?
I don't know at what point before Walt Disney anyone ever said that Peter Pan was a cool dude. And he's also a royal jerk. He's a right weirdo. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, I mean, you know how it ends in the book and the play, the stage play. Peter says he'll come back he'll collect Wendy to take her back for the spring cleaning back on Neverland. And when he does, all he wants to do is talk about himself. He's saying, hey, what about Hook? What about Tinkerbell? And he literally cannot remember Hook because he only lives in the present. He can't accumulate memories because then he would like inevitably grow up, but he only thinks about himself. He forgets everything virtually as it's happening, I guess. And Tinkerbell, it turns out, basically had the life of an insect or a rodent. It turns out the fairies, really tiny, they don't live very long. He had forgotten who Tinkerbell even was. And also, J.M. Barrie pretty much comes down on the side of never growing up. He actually equivocates because Wendy accepts that she decides to grow up, and I guess it's okay for her, but Barrie makes it a tragedy. What?
Didn't he kind of never grow up himself? I think he never grew up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he is something of a weirdo. He himself was something of a weirdo.
Yeah, like he he got. I think he was married, and they never consummated the marriage or something. I don't know. There was something weird about
That's
that.
the suspicion. Yes, that's
Yeah.
what people say. Yeah. Barry actually pronounced it tragic that the Lost Boys decided to stay in London. That was a tragedy, as he said. And they realized only too late that they couldn't go back. They were forgetting how to fly, and they became adults, and they just sort of had their gray lives, and the word he used was tragedy. Okay, so that's why I was wondering why Walt was attracted to that story. I guess there's something kind of alluring about the boy who won't grow up, and he takes the kids to Neverland, and they have an adventure, and then he takes them home. But
That would be my guess, is that he was just tying in with that, that statement of his that we talked about a while ago, about how there's a little place inside all of us that's, still pure and honest and innocent.
where I'm going with all this is that the makers of the latest, the Disney live action Peter Pan did not realize a thing, and that is that when you get this ambiguous, complicated, weird source material, you edit. What is going to be your pointer? What is going to be your narrative? What is going to be your first, second, and third act? And what's going to be your theme? And what's going to be, what is going to be the conclusion of your what's going to be your conflict? All this stuff, and it seems to me as though all they did, and we can leave this to some of the other YouTubers, but all they did was just kind of take this no longer politically correct intellectual property and just somehow make it live action and politically correct, and they just tinkered with it in all the wrong ways. The one moment, for instance, in the play or in this live action that made me think, no, you don't even, why are we even, you don't even know where you are, was when Wendy, and this is the moment, it's in the trailer where Wendy comes onto this island, and they say, hey, we're the Lost Boys, and they're all girls, and she says, but you're not all boys, and they say, so, like how dare you even point this out, why, how dare you even object, and she just gives this resigned, oh well, I guess it isn't better then.
I could buy the replacement races. I could buy the Lost Boys being girls, but I didn't. I wish they had not said
if
that they were boys.
We're the lost kids.
Yes, exactly. That
Kids.
was exactly my thought. I mean, why did they have to be called Lost Boys? If they had called themselves Lost Girls, that would have been fine, or Lost Kids.
The Lost Kids. It's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to change them from boys into boys and girls, then just call themselves the Lost Kids.
Yeah.
Duh.
Duh.
That's where we know that she is not in Neverland, she's in Wonderland, where Humpty Dumpty says, anything I say just means whatever I wanted to say. And
Well, I was not as offended by it as you were. Actually, the main offense that I took to this film was the unending eternal darkness. It was dark all the way through, and there was no reason.
it was like Twilight. It wasn't like Neverland. It looked like a bunch of vampires.
I don't remember any blue sky anywhere. I mean, I don't remember it. Maybe there was a scene or two with some blue sky and puffy clouds, but I don't remember that.
Well, tell me, artist, is there something that we know that some piece of some kind of science that tells us that bright planes of color are more attractive to children than these dark
Yes, we do have that.
settings and gritty backgrounds, and it's all vines and crags?
Yes,
and,
all those studies have been done long ago, and they all say the same thing, which is that little kids are attracted to bright, saturated colors. Bright, juicy, saturated color is what they like. They'll pay attention to that. So why on earth all of these films, especially, all these Disney films in general, but I don't know why Disney is buying into all this darkness in film these days. It's a trend that is just god awful, and I don't know why I don't know why they're going along with it. They ought to be leading the pack. You know, they need to be setting the trend instead of following it. I mean, I know that remakes, and especially if you go to live action from animation, you've got to make some decisions. You got to make things have to be different. It's a whole different world. Live action is completely different from animation, but still, some elements you have to adhere to. If I was a kid, I would not have particularly, I would have been a little bit scared, a little bit creeped out by this movie. It was a scary place.
To change subjects a little bit, another thing that I think suffered in the transition to live action was the character of Tinkerbell. I don't care that she was played by a black woman who looked like she was about 32, but I definitely appreciated the heck out of whoever animated Tinkerbell. I don't, there's the credits list a number of the 9 old men, but I don't know which one animated Tinkerbell. I tried to find out, but I don't know. The animated Tinkerbell communicates so much without saying a word. And I don't know whether it's the actress or whether you just can't do it with live action, but you would always see this actress mouthing the words, and if you could lip read, you could figure out what she was saying. But the way Tinkerbell's entire body would be conveying indignance or impatience or delight or regret or whatever, and the way you could exaggerate her posture, and it would take really a ballet dancer to do that part justice, to do it right. Yeah. And I got the impression that really this particular Tinkerbell, they could have just put her in front of a green screen and done her entire role in one day.
Well, now that you're talking about her and talking about the original animated Tinkerbell, I think that we saw a lot more close-ups of the animated Tinkerbell than we ever saw of the live-action Tinkerbell. And here's another gripe that I have about the live-action film is that the cutting was just too fast. The editing was too fast. Cut. And I think that hurt Tinkerbell. I think it hurt the whole thing, but I think that really hurt Tinkerbell because in the original animated film, Tinkerbell gets some pretty serious screen time, and she gets some serious close-ups too. So they really spent some time. I mean, you could really grow a character's personality with more screen time. I mean, it just goes to.
But I also really want to give credit to the animator who brought Tinkerbell to life, because as animators have to be actors. They have to, right? I mean, they have to imagine like Tinkerbell arching her back or crossing her arms and standing there with her, like she's floating in the air, but she's still got her feet sort of up, like standing up instead of dangling or pointing down, and like the way she shakes her head and the way she shrugs her shoulders, it's all so evocative. But you couldn't, like I said, either the actress didn't pull it off because she's not a ballerina, she's not a mime, whatever she needs to be to do it, or live action just wouldn't let you do what the animators did.
I just think that there is so much more elbow room with animation.
Bouncing back quickly to another of the virtues of the animated version was the character of Wendy. Maybe you can just quickly find out who animated her, but the way Wendy walked, she looked so feminine. The way her nightgown would move and her little steps, she took these little steps, and her back was straight and her ringlets always shook, when she turned her head. But again, that is another one of the examples of the superb art, the craftsmanship of those original animators. And just to think it was all hand drawn also blows me away. But just the way the fabric moved, even though these were, it was, like I said, it was flat planes of color.
Nothing will ever top or replace that original animated film. This live-action remake will not ever reach that kind of height. I mean, it's just a movie. It's a movie. For me, it was tolerable, and and then there it was, and then it went away, and I'll never watch it again. I'll never miss not watching it again. One other thing that this film, this the remake did not have and could never, ever, ever have is the magic that flight, the first flight out of London, off the window and past Big Ben, they land on and then once they leave Big Ben, just soaring. They weren't even flapping their wings or anything, their arms. They were soaring over the Thames, down the Thames, over all those bridges. Oh my gosh, nobody can ever recreate that. And that's just plain old animation. Couple of levels, a couple of couple of underlays, and maybe some overlays, but and a background under there. And it is so simplistic, but it really turned into magic, and the music underneath it. That kind of moment in animation cannot be recreated. That was just lightning in a bottle.